The NFL draft is done. We finally have our answers. And today we're doing a rookie mock draft. As always, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 1,300 subscribers. I think we're about 50 subscribers away. So help us get there. The NFL draft, it was an interesting one indeed. Maybe didn't play out exactly like we thought it was going to. I was personally, I was a little bit surprised that only 6 running backs went in the first 3 rounds. That was a little bit surprising. Might kind of the fact that this running back class was so deep might kind of play into that just a little bit. But we're here. We're doing our first post NFL draft rookie mock draft. This is a 12-team PPR super flex. No tight end premium, just a standard league. I will kind of mention, if it were tight end premium, where these guys would go. And join us all week. We're going to be going live and doing rookie mock drafts for the next couple of weeks as people are entering into their real rookie mock draft. So, let's just get into it. Let's fire it up. And of course, at the 101, Ashton Jeanty, he held strong. He held strong all the offseason, all year long. If you had any little bit of doubt that maybe Ashton Jeanty shouldn't be the 101, I think all the landing spots and how it played out probably confirmed Jeanty number 1. Pretty easy there. We don't need to spend much time at all. At the 102, to me, there's 2 players you can go with. It's Omarion Hampton, and then it's Cam Ward. I think there's an argument to be made for Cam Ward being the 102. Depends on your team. Do you need quarterbacks? Also, the fact that guys like Shedeur Sanders fell, maybe it lends to this fact that hey, there's really only one elite quarterback and a lot of other question marks. And if you have multiple picks in this draft, let's say you have the 102 and the 105 and the 107, you can say, hey, I'll get my quarterback now, and then I'll draft running backs later. So to me, you can flip these guys in a super flex league, and I'm not going to be upset. But I'll go Hampton and Ward. I will say this about Omarion Hampton. I do think Najee Harris is going to be a problem year 1 for him. I think it limits his ceiling. And I know that sounds kind of crazy because I don't think the fantasy and dynasty community thinks very highly of Najee Harris. That being said, Najee Harris is going to get used. He never gets injured. He never fumbles. Harbaugh likes him. He's going to get used. Both those guys are going to have over 200 touches, in my opinion. And so Hampton could still be good. I just think it limits his ceiling a little bit, assuming Najee is fully healthy. That being said, Omarion Hampton's awesome, and he did get a great landing spot with first-round draft capital. At the 104 here, I'm going TreVeyon Henderson. On the Patriots. This was a little bit of a surprise. It doesn't feel like a Vrabel running back, but they go ahead and take TreVeyon Henderson. Why am I taking TreVeyon Henderson over Quinshon Judkins, who is the next pick, by the way? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Why am I taking TreVeyon Henderson over Quinshon Judkins? Well, that's because I just liked him better as a prospect. And I think he can do more with less, right? I don't think he necessarily needs 20 touches a game. I think this guy can do it in 10 to 15 touches. I think he's going to be just a weapon for them. He's going to catch the ball. I think the arrow's pointing up on the Patriots and that offense. I'm a big fan of Drake May. You bring in TreVeyon Henderson, you bring in Kyle Williams, you bring in other pieces, some offensive linemen, and really build up that team. And I think this offense could be really good. And I just think TreVeyon Henderson is going to be a huge weapon for this team on a team that is kind of still lacking weapons. They have Diggs, they have Kyle Williams, but tough to rely on a 3rd-round rookie wide receiver year 1 or right out the gate. You have Hunter Henry and some other guys, but TreVeyon Henderson could be like the second, the best weapon on this team. So I'll go ahead and take TreVeyon Henderson. I'm sticking to my pre-draft rankings of I just liked Henderson a little bit more than Quinshon Judkins. Ted McMillan's up next here. Now, again, I could see the next 2 picks going either way, kind of depending on your team, what you need, and things like that. If you wanted to take Quinshon Judkins, honestly, if you wanted to take any of these 3 guys, to me, this is a tier right here, right? You have Jeanty by himself, Hampton and Ward in another tier. And then to me, you kind of have guys like Henderson, McMillan, and Judkins all in another tier. And to me, you can argue one over the other one. Again, Ted McMillan, I have mixed feelings about the landing spot personally. To the Panthers. A lot of people, when we went live after round 1, a lot of people were all in on it. They were all in on Ted McMillan to the Panthers. And I kind of just had the feeling of man, we're going to need to see Bryce Young take that next step. Like, I know he played better after getting benched. He was a lot better for fantasy than maybe he was than he was for carrying and having fantasy relevant options at his disposal. That being said, Adam Thielen was pretty good for the last like 6-7 weeks of the season. But we're going to need to see Bryce Young take that next step. It is a little bit of a crowded receiving room, kind of. I mean, Ted McMillan should be the best one, but Xavier Legette's still there. Adam Thielen, crazy, is still there, and he's still producing, and Bryce Young seems to like him. Jalen Coker as an undrafted guy proved something last year. So Ted McMillan should be the best one there, but I just feel like, man, if Bryce Young doesn't take that next step and Ted McMillan is just good, or he's just average and he's not good or great, we're going to start just in our head thinking, oh my God, Panthers receiver, I hate it, right? Quinshon Judkins at the 106. Again, you can argue for him to be at the 104 if you wanted to. Goes to the Browns, 36th overall. Great landing spot for him, and he's going to produce well. Travis Hunter is my 107 pick. I'm curious. I want to hear what everyone else thinks about this, because I don't think there's yes, Travis Hunter's amazing. I just think Jacksonville trading up for Travis Hunter and trading that capital that they did kind of signals that they're going to use him on both sides of the football, both sides, offense and defense. That's what, at least, I don't think they trade all that capital to move up to 2 to draft a wide receiver when you already kind of have an elite one in Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not saying they don't need another wide receiver, but I'm just saying, would you trade all that capital to go and get, just a pure wide receiver? Or are you trading that capital because you think you're getting 2 players in one here? And I kind of feel like that's going to be the path here. I have no idea. I know some people are much higher on Travis Hunter. I'm going to say I'm okay with him being a risk, with him taking the risk around the middle of the first round. Because, man, if he doesn't play over 70% of the snaps, it's going to be really hard to rely on him for fantasy. And another thing that people aren't talking about, two other things that people aren't talking about. One is it's going to increase his injury risk. If he's playing more snaps than anyone else in the NFL, it's going to that just gives you more injury risk, right? And another thing is he was great in college. College, you can get away with just being athletically better than 99% of the people you're playing against. In the NFL, you can't, and you have to work on your craft. And is he going to be able to work on both and be successful at both? It's interesting. It's interesting. I want to know where you guys would take Travis Hunter. Matthew Golden's up next for me. I am a Matthew Golden fan. Have been since January. Since he declared, essentially. Don't really love the Packers landing spot. And again, I know some people are saying, I had someone in our comments say they'd take Matthew Golden over Ted McMillan. And okay, but my rebuttal to that is just, what happens if Matthew Golden isn't a difference maker? If he basically does what Jaden Reed has done the last couple of years, or what Christian Watson did, for a year. Like, Jaden Reed has actually been pretty good in terms of production. His first year, he had 900 total scrimmage yards. Last year, over 1,000. Has 17 touchdowns in 2 years, right? Can carry the ball, but he's not a difference maker. He's inconsistent. What if Golden's the same? What if Golden is just like a wide receiver 2/3, a boom bust wide receiver 2/3, a guy that you can't rely on? What are we all going to think? We're going to think, oh, Packers wide receiver. This is what they do. This is a Packers wide receiver. He's going to have that label on him. Whether it's fair or not, he's going to. He really has to kind of be a difference maker year one for us to not drop him in the rankings after. Even if he has a good year one, even if he has a Jaden Reed-like year one, we're going to bring him down in the rankings because we're going to think this is the Packers wide receiver. This is all they do. So just something to note there. I think he could separate himself, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's just another wide receiver in a muddy room. At the 109, I'm taking Jackson Dart. And again, I'm going to be putting out a video about tiers here soon, and a lot of these guys are going to be in the same tier. I'm going to take Jackson Dart over the tight ends. I'm going to take him over Emeka Ibuka. I could even argue taking him over Matthew Golden as high as the 108, just because of the positional scarcity, right? Like we literally had Cam Ward and Jackson Dart were the only two quarterbacks. Tyler Shuck was a surprise top 50 pick. And then you have, some third round picks. Shedeur Sanders falls. There's just not a lot of quarterbacks here. So if you need one, Jackson Dart's kind of your last one to get a little bit, although I do think there's some value in Shuck. But again, I'm going to take Dart over the tight ends and Emeka Ibuka and stuff like that, just because of the positional value. I think he's going to play potentially as early as year one. And you have a decent offense kind of building there to a certain extent. You got Malik Neighbors, you got Cam Scattaboo, you got Tyrone Tracy, you got Wan'Dale Robinson. So they're bringing in weapons, to say the least. So they brought back Slayton. So I'll take Jackson Dart there at the 109 in a Superflex league. At the 110, I'm going to go ahead and take Tyler Warren. Again, these are kind of all in a tier to me. Matthew Golden, Jackson Dart, Tyler Warren. If this were a tight end premium, Tyler Warren to me would be as high as the 106, 107. I mean, maybe even the 105. Depending on how high of a tight end premium it is. It has to be at least 1 point tight end premium, maybe one and higher. I'm probably not doing that for a half point tight end premium. 0.75, again, depends a little bit. But in a non-tight end premium, tight ends are always going to be lower for me. They're always going to get knocked down 4 or 5 spots potentially, just because they have to do so much more to really be a difference maker. There's only 2 or 3 guys that are really difference makers at the position. So Tyler Warren, I've been Tyler Warren over Colston Loveland. Even after round 1, I was Tyler Warren over Colston Loveland. And then they drafted Luther Burden, and that really confirmed it for me, Tyler Warren over Colston Loveland. I'm not as worried about the Colts landing spot as other people. I don't think it's ideal, but again, the bar for tight ends to be, in the top 10 is pretty low. And so I'll go ahead and take Tyler Warren, and I just think he's an amazing player. He can do a lot after the catch, which is really important. If you're playing with a quarterback who has some issues throwing the ball and being efficient, well, then you need to make the most out of your catches, right? And so Tyler Warren's yards after catch ability is incredible, in my opinion, and so he can make something out of nothing pretty easily. At the 111, I'll go ahead and take Emeka Ibuka. Again, this is kind of all still the same tier for me. Emeka Ibuka, I know it's not ideal that he went to the Buccaneers, but it makes sense if you think about it from the Buccaneers' point of view. If you have a 32-year-old Mike Evans, you have a 29-year-old Chris Godwin coming off a pretty major injury, and then you have Jalen McMillan. It could very easily, I don't expect much from Ibuka year 1 if Godwin and Evans and McMillan are all healthy. That being said, 1, they might not be healthy. But 2, as soon as 2026, this could be Emeka Ibuka is the best wide receiver on the Bucs pretty easily. I could see that. Remember JSN, and we were all worried about JSN going to the Seahawks because of Metcalf and Lockett. Less than 2 years later, JSN's a top 10 wide receiver, and Metcalf and Lockett are not even on the team anymore. That's how fast the NFL changes. So again, could you argue Ibuka over Golden as high as the 108? Sure. If you're an Ibuka fan and you think he's better than Golden, go for it. I'm not going to argue. This is one big, giant tier to me. Caleb Johnson's up next. Again, I could argue Caleb Johnson is probably even higher as well. It's tough. There's a lot of good players here. Third round to the Steelers. That just feels like a Steelers running back here. If I had to, I'm definitely going to be – there's going to be drafts where I'm taking Caleb Johnson at the 108, 109 because I want to get a share of him or something. And again, I just think this is a big, giant tier of players. So Caleb Johnson on the Steelers, I like it. I think he comes in and gets a Najee-like workload, and let's just hope he's better. Let's just hope he's better than Najee. I wasn't as high on Caleb Johnson as others, but I do recognize that, he's a damn good player. He has all the opportunity in the world right in front of him being on the Steelers. Now, before we get into round 2, just real quick, guys, a little reminder, make sure to like and subscribe and join our Discord. It's free to join. Link is in the description. We get a lot of trade questions in there. We're going to start putting together more listener leagues and stuff like that, real money leagues. So join our Discord if you so please. At the 201, I'll go ahead and take Loveland here. Top 10 pick at the tight end position. man, is that a crowded receiving room though. Like, I was excited for Loveland when he went to the Bears top 10, and then they drafted Luther Burden. And to be completely honest, I think a team like the Bears did go, like, they drafted Loveland over Warren because maybe they just liked him more. But I also think like that they have Cole Kmet on the team, and Cole Kmet's a good all-around complete tight end, and that allows them to get away with formations where they can have Cole Kmet kind of do the things that tight end needs to do, and that frees up Colston Loveland to be more of that big slot type of player, right? And so, I'm just worried that, like, are we going to see a Dawson Knox type of effect with Cole Kmet on Colston Loveland, where, I think Cole Kmet could kind of keep Loveland off the field to the point where I don't think Loveland's going to be playing 80, 90% of the snaps. I think he's going to be more in that 65 to 70 range, which you can still get things done. You're just going to be, it's going to be harder to do. And then you think about, you have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. Like, you have some legitimate wide receiver power there too. Plus DeAndre Swift. Like, it's just a crowded receiving room. And I think Cole Kmet's going to be a little bit of a thorn in the side for Loveland, just in terms of keeping him off the field for a certain amount of time. RJ Harvey, what a rise this guy has done. I'm going to take RJ Harvey here at the 202. RJ Harvey on the Broncos, second round draft capital, is the fifth running back off the board, I believe. Is the fifth running back off the board. No one expected RJ Harvey to be drafted in the second round as the fifth running back off the board. I did make a video on him all the way back in January. This was a video that said players I was higher on than others, and RJ Harvey was there, right? And I didn't expect him to go this high. I think he has all the opportunity in the world here. I just hope they use him like Alvin Kamara. That's my hope and dream here. So I'm going to take a shot on Harvey in this early second round, and I think, okay, this is potentially like, finally Sean Payton brings in one of his guys, and you probably use someone like an Audric Estime as that just pounder up the middle, the Mark Ingram of the offense, and RJ Harvey more of like the Kamara of the offense. That's what I'm hoping for at the very least. I'm going to go ahead and take Tyler Shuck here at the 203. Say what you will, very good chance that Tyler Shuck, besides Cam Ward, we know Cam Ward's starting week 1, but Shuck has the next best chance of any other quarterback in this draft class to start week 1, in my opinion. And there's a very good chance he does. You bring in Kellen Moore. You have a whole new offense. He gets his quarterback. You have some weapons there in Olave, Shaheed. Juwan Johnson, Kamara's still there. Like, it could be a pretty sneaky good offense. I don't know what to expect from Shuck. I mean, the Saints are telling me that they think he's starting caliber kind of quarterback, right? They're saying, hey, we had maybe a higher grade on this guy. We think he can be our starter. They're not taking a backup with their 40th overall pick. So very good chance that he is the starter for them week 1. And that has a lot of value in Superflex, a lot of value. Because you might potentially just be able to – there's a very good chance in August, before he even plays a real regular season game, you can trade Shuck for more than what you drafted him in your rookie draft. There's a very good chance that can happen. Besh is up next here. Jack Besh gets drafted by the Raiders. I love this. I love this landing spot for him. You have Geno Smith now. You have a pretty interesting offense in the Raiders, where obviously you have Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers is a very good wide receiver. You bring in Besh. You have Ashton Genty now. Like, this is an intriguing offense. And I think Besh is probably at best the second target on this team. Very good chance he's the third most targeted player on this team, behind Myers and Bowers. But I think by 2026, we could be seeing that he's like the number 1 target on this team. And I like his skill set a lot. I think he's just a very solid wide receiver. He's going to put up, I think he has a pretty safe floor, in my opinion, with the upside of being a number one guy potentially. But I think at worst, he's kind of like a low end wide receiver too, assuming that the Raiders offense, can be productive and score points and move the ball. Cam Scatterbo. This might shock some people, but I'm going to go Cam Scatterbo at the 205 here. He goes to the Giants. I know it's in the 4th round, but that being said, the running back room is kind of his. Like, I don't think Tyrone Tracy, if Cam Scatterbo's legit, and I think he is legit, I don't think Tyrone Tracy's really going to keep Scatterbo off the field at all. And I just think a coach like Dayball is going to like Scatterbo and his abilities and what he does at the running back position a lot, right? Especially if Tyrone Tracy can't, hold on to the ball or something. This reminds me a little bit of like Brian Robinson when he kind of came in and, basically took over the job from Antonio Gibson, right? Like Gibson was a good player for a couple of years, 2020 and 2021. And then Brian Robinson was drafted and the coaching staff just liked what he could do more than Gibson. Gibson was maybe not doing the little things right at the running back position. And Brian Robinson became, a fantasy relevant guy over the last few years. And I think Cam Scatterbo is better than Brian Robinson. I think he can catch the ball. I'm a big fan of Cam Scatterbo. It was pre-draft, and I'm going to take him as high as the 205 here just because I believe in him and his ability. Luther Burden at the 206. This hurts a little bit to take him this low. It's just like, man, what do we expect from Burden with like DJ Moore's on this team for the next 2 years. Roma Dunze is on this team for the next 4 years. Colston Loveland's on this team for the next 5 years. Like Cole Kmet's there. DeAndre Swift's there. This team's also going to, in my opinion, want to run the ball a little bit. Maybe they're going to, maybe not as much, now that I don't think they really even drafted. I think they only drafted a running back in the 7th round, which was a little bit shocking for us. But it's just, what do we expect from Burden? I think he's probably just going to play in the slot now. Roma Dunze and DJ Moore are going to be on the outside. I had hopes for Burden being able to play on the outside. It's just going to take like multiple injuries for me to really get excited about Burden year one. And again, like it's going to be very easy to move him down the board. Very, very easy. So it hurts. I think he's a talented player, but I just think he's going to be very limited in that offense. So many mouths to feed. At the 207, I'm going to maybe surprise people as well. I'm going Kyle Williams. I'm a big Kyle Williams fan. Over the last month or so, when I really started scouting him, I was like, this guy's really damn good. And then you started seeing him being mocked in the 3rd round consistently. And that's exactly where he goes. 3rd round pick, Kyle Williams, goes to the Patriots very early in the 3rd round. He goes 5th pick of the 3rd round to the Patriots. And so now you're looking at a team, by the way, the Patriots, they only drafted 2 skill position players. They drafted Travion Henderson and Kyle Williams. That's it. They drafted offensive linemen stuff. You're looking at a situation where Kyle Williams can easily be the best wide receiver on that team. And that's not even a joke. He can easily be the best wide receiver on that team. Diggs is kind of old, coming off an ACL tear. Demario Douglas, I think, is fine for what he does. And that's kind of all they have. That's all they have. They don't even really have a dominant pass-catching running back necessarily. I guess now Travion Henderson would be. But they don't have a dominant tight end. Like Kyle Williams is going to be at worst wide receiver 3 for this team, year one. And he could be the best wide receiver on that team. I think he's that good. And I'm buying stock into the Drake May offense. And I think Drake May is going to be really damn good. So Kyle Williams to me over, and this might surprise some people, over Jaden Higgins. I'll take Jaden Higgins next. And Jaden Higgins goes to the Texans. He is the 4th wide receiver off the board. Is that right? So Travis Hunter, Ted McMillan, Emeka Ibuka, Matthew Golden, and then Jaden Higgins is the 5th wide receiver off the board. I see the potential for Jaden Higgins. I've always actually been more of a Jalen Noel guy, but I do think that Higgins had a higher ceiling. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I think he has opportunity there because the Texans desperately need a second option. But now you're starting to look at the Texans and saying, wow, this is kind of a crowded receiving room. We got Nico Collins, we got Christian Kirk, we got Jaden Higgins, we got Jalen Knoll, we got Dalton Schultz. We got Mixon and what he's going to do in the passing game. Oh, by the way, they brought in, I believe, a kind of a pass catching running back as well, Woody Marks, right? So it's quickly becoming a crowded wide receiver room. I'm not the biggest Jaden Higgins fan, so I'm a little bit skeptical on if he's even a very good player, but I got to respect where he went a little bit. So I'll go ahead and take him here at the 208, but I'm going to believe in my guys a little bit more. And that's what I tell people. When you start getting into this middle of the second to basically the end of the draft, from mid-second to the end of the draft, go with like guys, obviously, I'm not going to take a 7th round wide receiver over Jaden Higgins, but because I thought he was better than him pre-draft. But like, to me, like these guys drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round, there's a lot of factors that go into why they fell. And it's not always just because like, oh yeah, this player is universally better than this player. Who knows? Like maybe the Texans were the only team that had Jaden Higgins as essentially a 1st round pick, an early 2nd round pick. Every other team could have had Jaden Higgins as a 3rd round pick. You just don't know these things. So it's not exact science to say, draft capital always matters, but it is, obviously it is going to matter in terms of the opportunity that they're going to give you. Dylan Sampson's up next, and this may shock some people. I'm taking Dylan Sampson at the 209, though. If you've been watching my channel, you know that this is a little bit of a bias. Like, I'm a big Dylan Sampson guy. I was a little bit bummed he didn't go day 2, and then he went to the Browns. And at first I was like, I was a little bit bummed because of Quinshon Judkins. But then I remembered, and I've been talking about this a lot, I talked about it when I talked about buying low on Jerome Ford, was that go back and look at what Kareem Hunt was doing in 2020 and 2021 with the Browns. Those 2 years in particular. 2020, he averaged 12 and a half carries a game and 2.5 receptions a game. So he was getting 15 touches a game with a prime Nick Chubb there. Now, I do think Nick Chubb missed some games there, but still, he was still being used about 50% of the time. 2021, he averaged 10 carries a game and 2.8 catches a game. So he was basically around 13 touches a game. I look at those 2 years, and that was with the prime Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt was playing 50% of the time. Now, I think anyone would be crazy to say that Quinshon Judkins is better than a prime Nick Chubb. And so, like, I see the Browns using both these guys, especially with their quarterback situation kind of up in the air. They don't have this elite passer unless Flacco, does it again. But they could very heavily depend on the run. They always use multiple guys. Even when Nick Chubb is there in his prime, they were using him. Just go look at Nick Chubb's snap percentage over the years, and you'll be a little bit surprised, I think. 2020, his snap share was 49.2%. Now, that does include a game where he left early, but still, that one game's not going to sway that percentage too much. He was basically splitting the backfield with Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb in 2021, 52.5%, right? Nick Chubb in 2022, 56.2%, right? Like, Nick Chubb in his prime was never even hit 60% snap share. So I see this being Judkins and Dylan Sampson, and they're going to be splitting the backfield. And who knows, maybe Dylan Sampson gets some more of the value touches there. By the way, Kareem Hunt during that time was like a low-end RB2, while Nick Chubb was a top 15, top 12 guy. So I'm still a believer in Dylan Sampson. I'm taking him here, even though he goes 4th round, even though he goes to the Browns. Trey Harris is up next. I know a lot of people are excited about this. A lot of people are Trey Harris fans. I am not a Trey Harris fan. I will tell you, if you are a Trey Harris fan, if you are a Trey Harris guy, take him higher. Take him higher. I'm not going to argue with you because the landing spot seems ideal. Now, what I'll say about this is I actually don't love the landing spot for Trey Harris himself. I love the landing spot for Herbert. I love the landing spot for McConkey. I love the landing spot for the Chargers overall and their offense. I don't love it for Trey Harris because I don't think he's out targeting Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston, and I know people are going to laugh. Quentin Johnston is now going to be able to play the role that he's meant to play. Here's how the offense is going to, in my opinion, is going to play out. You're going to have McConkey playing a lot from the slot, right? You're going to have Trey Harris as your X receiver, right? Trey Harris / Mike Williams as your X receiver. And you're going to finally have Quentin Johnston be able to play that Z role. The Chargers desperately they desperately needed an X receiver. They didn't have an X receiver last year. They were trying to use guys like Josh Palmer. I think that was their plan for DJ Shark. Just didn't work out. So now you get in a situation where you can let Quentin Johnston not play with his back to the quarterback. He's terrible when his back is to the quarterback. He's much better when he's back and turned and looking at the quarterback. And that's what now he can do, playing that Z role. He can run little hitch routes. He can run wide receiver screens, get the ball in his hand. He's going to take targets away. Tyler Conklin is there, and Justin Herbert targeted the tight end 21% of the time last year. Tyler Conklin's going to get his. Also, this team's going to run the ball more. With Najee Harris and Amarian Hampton, I'd be shocked if the Chargers are not over 30 rush attempts a game. They were about 27 last year. I'd be shocked if they didn't go over 500 rush attempts on the season. So all of that put together, I don't actually think Trey Harris, on top of me really not liking him as a prospect, not being as high as others, I should say, I don't think he's going to do much for fantasy this year, personally. But I absolutely could be wrong. And he's the guy that I'm probably most worried about being wrong about, because I do think if he hits, he's really going to hit. Next up is Jalen Noel. I told you, I was more of a Jalen Noel guy over Jaden Higgins. And so, I like Jalen Noel and the Texans. Again, everything I said for Higgins applies to Noel. That being said, I just think Noel has a little bit safer of a floor. I think he's a better slot player than Christian Kirk, although Christian Kirk could be an issue at least the beginning of the year. But I'll go ahead and take Jalen Noel here as he goes third round to the Texans. And then I'll take Bashal Tootin out of Virginia Tech. Interesting pick here for Tootin going to Jacksonville. And this feels a little bit Bucky Irving-like, right? And what I mean by that, obviously, Tootin was much faster than Bucky Irving. But in terms of a little bit undersized running back going to Liam Cohen's offense, I think Tootin could really easily carve a rollout for this team. And I just don't really know how to, what's that backfield going to be like? And now we're talking about, in Tootin, we're talking about a fourth round running back who the issue why draft capital matters so much is that if these guys don't do anything year one, it's going to be their values are going to plummet because they're fourth round, they're day 3 picks. They just are. And so Tootin here, I don't know how to interpret that backfield really. You got ETN, you got Bigsby, and now Tootin. How is he going to be used? Is he going to be more of their pass catcher? We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I'll go ahead and take Mr. Bashal Tootin here. And then we'll get into the third round. We'll go a little bit quickly here. There's 3 tight ends that went all top 50, I believe. Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, and Elijah Arroyo. I actually kind of like all these. I like all these tight ends. Mason Taylor is probably my favorite. And I like his landing spot because he could be the number 2 target there for the Jets, who, by the way, the Jets only drafted 1 wide receiver in the 4th round. So it's Garrett Wilson and potentially Mason Taylor as the 1-2 punch here. Terrence Ferguson, I like him. I probably like Arroyo a little bit more just in a vacuum. That being said, I like Ferguson going to the Rams. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Tyler Higbee's there. And yeah, you're right. When I'm drafting tight ends in this range, end of the 2nd, beginning of the 3rd, I'm kind of thinking I need to do a 1-year punt in anyways. So I'm not super worried about, waiting a year there. And then Elijah Arroyo, who could make Noah Fant redundant. But now, now you got a team that has a lot of players that kind of run those middle of the field slot routes, in JSN, Cooper Kupp, and now Elijah Arroyo. But maybe Arroyo plays more of that vertical threat rather than the traditional tight end kind of route. So these 3 tight ends, order them how you want. Take them anywhere from the end of the 2nd to the early 3rd. In a tight end premium, these guys would go over, probably over, they'd be closer to the 207 to 210 range. That's where they would be in a tight end premium league, in my opinion. Jaden Blue's up next. Someone's going to take a shot on Jaden Blue, probably higher. I really liked Jaden Blue when I watched him. My only issue with him was I wasn't sure how teams were going to use him. Is Jaden Blue now the new Tony Pollard? Is that how this is all going to play out? Javonte Williams is the Zeke, and Jaden Blue is the Pollard. Because, like, what I liked about Jaden Blue is I think he has a role as a pass catcher, right? Like, that's his bare minimum. And maybe he's just better, right? And I like guys like that because I think they're going to get on the field. They're going to be able to prove that they're good, right? And then maybe their role gets expanded. I kind of thought about that with Bucky Irving last year. We were Bucky Irving fans on this channel. We had him in our top 5 running backs, I think top 3 running backs last year, pre-draft. One of the reasons I liked him and took a chance on him was just that, okay, I think he's going to have a pass catching role. And then if he proves that he's better, he's going to get more touches. And it kind of worked out that way. So I think Jaden Blue on a team now where it's like, okay, you have Javonte Williams, question marks, Miles Sanders, question marks, Rico Dowdle's gone. There's opportunity here for Jaden Blue for the Cowboys. I just think he's probably the Pollard of the offense, right? Jalen Milroe, I'll take 2 quarterbacks here back-to-back. Jalen Milroe and Dylan Gabriel, 2 guys that get third-round draft capital. And you think about it, and it's like, okay, like Milroe, like what if Darnold just kind of sucks? And someone brought this up, and I think, someone tweeted it and basically said, like, hey, remember when the Seahawks paid Matt Flynn a bunch of money, and we all thought he was going to be the starter, but then that same year they drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, and Russell Wilson became the starter. I don't think that's going to happen, but if Darnold falls flat on his face, they just traded Sam Howell. Jalen Milroe's like in line, and so I like taking him here. A backup, the QB2 for a team, and it's a quarterback that can run. Like, sign me up every day if I can get him here. Dylan Gabriel, again, it's more of like, okay, I made a video and I talked about outside of the top, 4 guys or so that get drafted, Dylan Gabriel to me was the next guy that could make an impact for a team. And he goes to the Browns. And again, like, I know we're all thinking, oh, no, it's Flacco and no one else. Flacco has to recapture what he did in a couple of years ago and even last year, right? But like this quarterback room is crowded with no certainties at all. So it's like a crowded room with no certainties at all. What are we going to do? We have Flacco, we have Kenny Pickett, we have Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, who I don't think is going to play. But go ahead and take Dylan Gabriel here. Take a shot on him. I like taking shots on quarterbacks that I could see realistically start this year in the 3rd round of a Superflex league. Harold Fannin is up next. He would definitely be, earlier in the 3rd round if it were tight end premium. He goes to Cleveland though. Like, okay, I don't know how they're going to use him necessarily. Like, are they going to just use him as, is he going to kind of be like their wide receiver 3 to a certain extent? Like, they don't have a great wide receiver room. I don't think they drafted anyone else. They didn't. So you have Judy. You have Judy, Cedric Tillman, and then like Michael Woods and Jamari Thrash is their wide receiver 3. So like, does Fannin just kind of become like their wide receiver 3 while Njoku plays the traditional tight end role? I don't know, but I'll take a shot on it here. I'll take a shot on Fannin. He's that tweener, right? I don't think he's fast enough to play a pure wide receiver role, but he's a tweener that has some intrigue for sure. Savion Williams up next. 2 of my favorite wide receiver prospects, Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, both went to the Packers. Listen, I like Savion Williams a lot. I think he really threatens Jayden Reed a lot in terms of like what made Jayden Reed, part of what made Jayden Reed really good was that they gave him carries and they used him in creative ways. Jayden Reed has basically averaged about 15 carries a game. A season. And I know that sounds insignificant, but if you get 15 carries in a season, and usually wide receivers average 8+ yards per attempt, in his career he's averaged 9. You're adding on every year an extra 135 yards on the ground. That's pretty good. That pushes you from a 850-yard receiver to 1,000 total yard receiver, plus whatever touchdowns you get. You'll probably get a couple touchdowns in there as well. I think Savion Williams kind of takes that away from Jaden Reed. Now, will Savion Williams be good for fantasy? I don't know. I don't know what the Packers are going to do. I don't know if the Packers use their wide receivers the way they do because of a philosophy or because of, well, we don't have a player that warrants being, the alpha in our offense. I don't know, because what we've seen now since Devontae Adams is gone is this spread the ball out. No one really plays a whole lot. No one gets a lot of targets type of offense. But is that just because of the personnel they had? And Matthew Golden and Savion Williams are going to change that? Savion Williams, to me, could be Green Bay's wide receiver 3/RB2. And there's intrigue there. I don't know if it's going to be – I'll take a shot on it because I think he's an incredible athlete. And if they give him any type of expanded role, he could be really damn good. But, Matt LaFleur, he kind of has like a Debo, Cordero Patterson type of player here. And I think that's intriguing to him. I do think that's pretty intriguing to him. So continue along here. We'll end up this. We'll wrap this up pretty quickly here. Jarquez Hunter is up next for me. We're getting into dart throws now, but Jarquez Hunter, he's the backup. Or he went to the Rams 4th round. I look at Jarquez Hunter and Blake Corum, and those two guys. I wouldn't be shocked if Hunter is just better than Blake Corum and is the RB2 for the Rams, and that's going to have a lot of value. The RB2 for the Rams. So I'll take a shot there at the end of the 3rd round. Jalen Royals, one of my favorite guys. Man, he just falls. 4th round is not great for wide receivers. I probably might take, there will be drafts where I take Royals a little bit higher in my opinion, but 4th round on the Chiefs. This could be good if Patrick Mahomes could ever get back to 5,000 yards and 40-plus touchdowns. And maybe adding a guy like Jalen Royals to Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, right? Maybe adding a guy there is what they need to get him back there. But he's going to have to get back to there for Jalen Royals to be consistent. So sucks. I like the player, but man, just tough. Not a great landing spot in terms of he's probably the wide receiver 3 at best. We'll see. 311. I'll take Giddens again, a guy that I really, really liked. Did not get the draft capital I liked, and didn't really, he went 5th round to the Colts. So he's the backup to JT at best. That's just kind of where I'd probably be taking these guys where they have no shot. In my opinion, DJ Giddens does not have any shot of overtaking Jonathan Taylor. Jaden Blue could be the best running back on Dallas. Dylan Sampson is going to have a 50-50 workload potentially with Quinshon Judkins. Bashal Tutin is going to have a role potentially and be the RB2. DJ Giddens has no shot at all to be better than Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion. So he has to have an injury. Sucks because I really like him, and I'll still take him, in this late 3rd round, but a little bit disappointing. And then I'll finish this up with an interesting one in Isaac Tesla. And why I'm taking him here is, Lions traded up for him, right? Lions went up into the early 3rd round to get him. So they probably thought that he had a late 2nd round, early 3rd round grade and that he fell a little bit. And why I think this is interesting, and I talked about this 2 months ago. Lions have to make a decision on Jameson Williams, and you're already hearing the rumors about him being traded and blah blah blah. Isaac Tesla, if that happens to JMO, I think we're gonna have JMO at least one more year with the Lions. But in 2026, it could be Amon-Ra and Tesla as wide receiver 1 and 2. That's how easy of a path I can see for him. He lit it up at the combine, super athletic, so. Good offense. And even beyond, if you think about it, beyond, let's just say Jameson's there for 2 years, Lions don't have much behind Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams either. So I know Laporte is there and stuff, but in terms of receivers, so there's a lot of other guys that I'm going to be taking shots on in the 4th round. I'm going to be putting out a video talking about late round picks or undrafted guys, guys like Brashard Smith, Ollie Gordon, a lot of running backs in general that I'll be taking a shot on. Torrey Horton, the wide receiver. But check that out. Join us live for doing live rookie drafts, and appreciate everyone. Hope you enjoy the draft. Hope you have a good rookie draft, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.